At last, Matt Busby, the maestro of Manchester United, had groomed a team great enough to beat Europe's best. He was king of soccer. His wonderful 11 men were all princes.
Champions of Europe, champions of England, winners of the FA Cup, everything their hearts desired.
Looking at the current state of Man United, with the insane rotation of managers, the toxic environment around the club, the negativity surrounding the players, it's really easy to forget just how gigantic this team used to be. From the days of Sir Matt Busby and the Busby Babes, to Sir Alex Ferguson in the class of '92, from that first Premier League title in 1993, all the way to the last one 20 years later, United has always been a team of incredible stature. But among the many, many achievements in the years gone by, one night stands out above the rest. One game, one performance among the greatest comebacks in football history, if not the greatest. A game that put Sir Alex Ferguson alongside managerial greats such as Matt Busby and Bill Shankly. A game that held so much significance to both teams involved, both teams looking to come back from disappointments in the previous season, and both teams going for the treble. Of course, I'm talking about that infamous Champions League final between Man United and Bayern Munich at the Camp Nou Stadium in Barcelona. But to understand just how significant this game was, we need to go back in time for context. 2 seasons after the arrival of Arsene Wenger, Arsenal secured the double, winning the FA Cup and the Premier League, just by 1 point. Now, around this time, it was Arsene Wenger and Arsenal that were on the headlines. Wenger revolutionized Arsenal in just about every possible way, on and off the pitch. Everyone raved about the beautiful, intricate football they played, and this was a major blow to United and Sir Alex. After that, the unexpected and rather shocking retirement of Eric Cantona, just aged 30 at the time, and the long-term injury to newly appointed captain Roy Keane, United were in a bit of a tough spot.
I am worried.
Cantona and Keane were 2 massive figures in the dressing room and on the pitch, so you can imagine how devastating it was to lose both of them just before the season kicked off. Regardless, it was clear that there was work to be done ahead of the 98-99 season if United were to dethrone the defending champions. Dutch defender Jaap Stam joined from PSV for a record-breaking fee for a defender at the time, Dwight York joined from Aston Villa, and Jesper Blomqvist joined from Parma. On the pitch, it was clear that United had made improvements, but there was a huge cloud looming over them that summer. The World Cup is a momentous occasion for players and teams to represent their countries on the biggest stage of football, but more than that, it has always been a tournament filled with narratives. Think of the most recent World Cup in Qatar, Messi going on his last dance and Mbappe looking to climb the ranks of footballing legends. Think of the 2014 World Cup when Mario Götze won it so late in the game in extra time. Think of the 2010 final, Spain versus the Netherlands, Arjen Robben missing all those chances and Iniesta bearing the dagger late in the game to win Spain's one and only World Cup. Go forward to 2014 when the Netherlands had their chance at revenge, or Van Persie scoring that goal, the Flying Dutchman. There's always narratives surrounding the tournament, which are also historically significant. Let's go back in time to 1998. The World Cup this time was held in France, and it put England against Argentina in the round of 16. It was in this exact tie 12 years ago that one of the most infamous goals, perhaps the most infamous, was scored. I'm talking about Diego Maradona and the hand of God. Argentina went on to secure the World Cup that year. In more historical context, just 4 years before the hand of God incident, Argentinian forces and English forces went head-to-head in a battle that would be known as the Battle of the Falkland Islands. So, both historically and in football, England versus Argentina has always been a significant match. Now let's go forward to 1998. This game was infamous for many reasons, but the one that stood out was the incident between Beckham and Simeone. Beckham was fouled at Diego Simeone, and in retaliation, Beckham kicked out at Simeone, which resulted in him getting sent off and England eventually losing the game. This resulted in nationwide hate for Beckham and getting insulted and abused wherever he went. Every time he touched the ball, he was booed by fans. There were jerseys getting burnt. It was crazy. He was the most hated man in England at the time, and all of this happened just before the 1999 season kicked off. Okay, so we've established enough context. Now for the actual treble-winning season. Right before the season, the treble wasn't something you talked about in England. It was something that was just out of the question. Only 6 clubs had achieved it before this. It was the biggest possible achievement in club football, and even United didn't talk about it until they were actually locked in for all 3 trophies. New signings Dwight York and Jaap Stam proved to be incredible signings. Stam was a beast in defense, even stepping up at times in the midfield. York and Cole had a great partnership and an understanding, Cole being the poacher and York dropping deeper to link the play. These two had combined for 53 goals over the season, and the rest of the team, well, they need no introduction. Beckham, Giggs, Scholes, the Neville brothers, they were coming of age and were major contributors to United's success under Sir Alex. United started a bit shaky that season. The absence of Cantona and Keane was clearly affecting them, but they would go on an incredible run in the second half of the season, and they won the title just by 1 point. 1 down, 2 to go. Next was the FA Cup final against Newcastle. The road to this final wasn't particularly challenging for United, except one game, a semi-final tie against none other than their arch rivals, Arsenal. The first game ended in a draw, forcing a replay to decide the finalist. In the replay, Beckham opened the scoring, but Bergkamp tied things up, equalizing for Arsenal. Things looked bad for United as Arsenal started growing into the game, and to make matters worse, Wilkin picked up a second yellow card and was sent off. United somehow made it to extra time, and in a moment of pure individual brilliance, Ryan Giggs scored one of the best goals you will ever see.
Giggs gets past Vieira, past Dixon, who comes back at him. It's a wonderful run from Giggs! Sensational goal from Ryan Giggs in the second period of extra time. He's cut Arsenal to ribbons, and the team with 10 men go back in front 2-1.
He drove past the entire team to score a late winner for United and sent them to the final. The celebrations were iconic. United went on to win the final 2-0, but it wasn't without problems. Wilkin picked up an early injury, and with the Champions League final just a few days later, this was a major blow. But with the win in the FA Cup, they'd already secured the double. They were going for the unprecedented treble. Now, United had a history of crashing out early in the knockout stages of the Champions League, despite their domestic pedigree. The last time they'd won the Champions League was back in the days of Sir Matt Busby, when they became the first English side to win the European Cup, as it was known back then. Sir Alex had already proven himself on the domestic level, but this Champions League final was his magnum opus, his greatest challenge yet. Even he has spoken about how he had to win the Champions League to be recognized as one of the greatest managers to ever grace the game. The Champions League final on May 26, 1999 held huge significance for both teams. Like I said earlier, both teams were going for the treble. United had already secured the Premier League and the FA Cup, and Bayern had won the Bundesliga and the DFB Pokal. They were on the treble hunt. Coincidentally, the date of the final was also Sir Matt Busby's birthday. You could say it was written in the stars for United. Now, personally, whenever I think of German teams, I think of this quote by Gary Lineker. Football is a simple game. 22 men chase a ball for 90 minutes, and at the end, the Germans always win. Almost as a testament to the statement, Bayern took a very early lead from a free kick just 6 minutes in. United was struggling to get going in this game, and as Bayern took an early lead, they cooled things off and decided to waste time instead. United kept going, but it seemed like it was not their night. Even the great Sir Alex himself reflected on the game in later years, saying that he had given up by the end of the game, and he was already thinking of how he could take the defeat gracefully. Normal time was up and 3 minutes were added on. United were on their last breath. Everything was on the line. And then, this happened.
Cleared, Giggs with a shot, Sheringham! Beckham into Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it!
Within 2 minutes, at the death, at the very last seconds of the game, they turned it all around. The treble was secured, and in the most incredible possible way to do so. They ascended the football pyramid, cementing their place as the greatest team in the world. That was a season they lost Eric Cantona. That was a season that David Beckham, their golden boy, was haunted by one mistake and harassed everywhere he went. That was the season they had all the odds stacked against them, and they had to come back time and time again from adversity after adversity. They'd finally done it. Sir Alex cemented his place in the pantheon of football management. David Beckham came back from rock bottom to becoming one of the best players in the world, finishing second place in the Ballon d'Or. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wrote his name in United folklore, taking his place as a club legend. United would go on to success after success, following this treble, knocking back any challenger to the throne in a much more competitive league, and the era that followed was an even greater one. But that's a conversation for another day. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.